rising above the buzz of ultrasonic cleaners and the clanking of stainless steel are the ideas and voices that are changing an industry. You're listening to the Beyond Clean podcast, the central nexus for the people, processes, and products that are improving our sterile processing world. Each week, we speak with frontline technicians, CEOs, engineers, and entrepreneurs with a common goal to help you fight dirty. Every instrument, every time. Whether you are tuning in for education or inspiration, we're glad you did. Now turn on those washers and turn up the volume. It's time to go beyond clean.
On this episode of Beyond Clean, we speak with Mark Duro, Max Catalano, and Franco Airasca about the story of Terragene and their latest FDA clearance for a 5-minute low-temperature biological indicator. So we're going to have a conversation today with these panelists. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. And before we get started, let's do some introductions. Max, let's start with you. Who are you?
Well, this is Max Catalano. I'm Managing Director for Terragene in North America, Mexico, US, and Canada.
Awesome. Okay. Let's go next to Mark.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Duro. I am the education manager for Terragene. I've been with the company now for a little over a year, and it's been pretty exciting, especially with all the innovation that Hank had mentioned.
And you guys are old timers, may recognize Mark too. Mark, you also served as president of the old ISHM organization back in the day.
It's a weird story. I was elected, and what ended up happening was I was offered a position outside of the industry, and I took that, and I never fulfilled my role.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the first one that never actually made it through. So I get props for that.
That's you and me both. Okay. So let's go next to Franco.
Hi, everyone. I'm Franco Airasca, Director of Business Development for the company. I work from Argentina, from where we have our facility. I manage the business with dealers in the European and the Americas continents.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
So if you're tuning into this podcast, you don't have the opportunity to see the room, but I'm going to ask the room here real quick. Show of hands, who has, before this event, never heard of Terragene? All right. Great. Okay. So, that's exactly why we're having this conversation, to introduce you to this company. And as we're going to get started, Max, maybe let's start with you. If you were to describe Terragene to a group of sterile processing professionals who this is the first time maybe being exposed to the brand, what would you say? What would you highlight?
I would say that Terragene is a biological company that produces medical devices really focused in infection prevention and specifically in quality controls. We are really putting all our science in the whole cycle for processing the materials and the instruments, starting from washing, inspection, disinfection, inspection, and sterilization. So in the whole cycle, you will need quality controls, and we are really specialized in having that controls for you.
Where is the company located or founded?
Well, the company was founded by 2 scientists, and that's why we are really innovative, because in our ADN, we keep that in mind. The company is headquartered in Argentina, and we operate globally. We are selling our products in 80 countries all around the world. With the time, we needed to develop a few logistic hubs for better prepared with customers in challenging markets. And that's why we developed our logistic hub in Shanghai, China. In North America, we have 2 in Houston, Texas, and in Mexico, DF.
So, let's go next to Franco here. There's obviously other companies in this space that do some of the things that your company does, but how would you differentiate yourself from those other companies?
Well, actually, as Max was saying, from the very beginning of the company, we try to have a very broad portfolio of products, okay, trying to cover the washing and cleaning stages, the inspection stage, and the sterilization stage. So trying to be, an integrated solution for the SPD users, and everything also related or ended up in having quality control. All the we consider that indicators are a vehicle that transport information. Okay, a washing indicator, a protein detection swab, a biological indicator, a BOWEDIC, everything transports information. So we are collecting all that information in one cloud-based software in order to give the user a complete quality control and visibility and tracking of all the indicators results that they are managing at their SPD. So we understand that we are very focused on indicators. We are experts on that. We never try to do something different like sterilizers or washers. We are just focused on indicators. And I believe that that mind put in that way has helped us to be the most innovative company in this field, I believe.
So Mark, there's a big announcement. Obviously, one of the reasons that we're having this event in 2023 is there's a lot of stuff going on with Terragene in 2023. Would you like to kind of talk about what that big announcement is and why it matters to the average sterile processing department out there?
So one thing I wanted to kind of jump on what you were saying, Hank had mentioned being in a facility where it's just walls and no supplies, and just picture yourself being in a position like that. You walk into a department, you have nothing. So you got to order instruments. You need to get your quality control stuff. But when you look at Terragene, it's that one-stop shop for everything. So if you're looking for, a chemical indicator, a tape, we offer free software that you can use to take our products and upload. So if you have staff that are having trouble interpreting results or looking at products, we have tools to help with that. The software is something that we offer for free. And when we talk about like the uniqueness of our products, all of our products, this 2D barcode on it, that ties into part of our system where we have a scanner that interprets the results, loads it into the free software. So when we talk about innovation and new products, Terragene is always in the forefront with that. And this is our new thing right here. This is our Hyper 5 biological incubator and biologicals. So I've brought this to the field. I've had the chance to use it. I've tested it. You plug it in. It takes about 10 minutes to warm up. Once it warms up, put the control in. You'll have the results in less than 5 minutes. And then the actual read itself, you put it in 5 minutes. So talk about innovation. This is the fastest on the market right now.
And so that's a low temp 5-minute indicator plus the incubator. Plus you're kind of setting the context for the data of the quality. And I really like that story. And actually that's one of the questions here, Max, I'll throw to you. That phrase quality control has come up in the founding of the company, in the scope and scale of the company, obviously, and how the company reacts to these indicators and the data that they're providing that Franco mentioned. So, with all the emphasis on quality, how can you be a cost efficient partner with these supplies? Because obviously in the US, it's tempting or easy to treat these consumables as commodities. We only want to know how much does it cost. As a company, how are you balancing that?
Well, first of all, I told you that we are a company full of science. We invest 5% of our revenue each year in research and development. And you can see it in our figures. We are 350 people in our staff, and 60 of them are scientists. So we are really trying to be ahead of everything. We are a company 16 years now, really young. We have caught up and get in the front with the fastest hydrogen peroxide VR. So we are really trying to move faster than everyone else. And our team is very compact. So our quality control is really tied to our research and development. So the same guys who are trying to get the new things done are the ones that are trying to solve the problems that may come up with our current products. So that is the first thing. The second point is that to achieve innovation, you need to work not only in the product, but in the process for manufacturing it. Because you need to design both together to get products in the market with high efficiency, to have both things. I mean, quality, innovation, but low cost, right? Because your budget matters. So in the end, we figured out that we needed to have a vertically integrated company. So we work in the process. We start with very simple materials, raw materials, the most basic ones. And we developed our processes and our own machinery to build any single piece, all the software, everything is made by ourselves. So we can really have control for the quality of each piece of the product and also control for the prices of the whole chain. That is our secret. And I would also say that to make it happen, you also need, the most advanced technologies for manufacturing. So we have our own equipment, our own team for building our machines. So we design the machines that produces our products, and also they automate it to make it happen, I mean, low cost. So we are really integrated, but really also we have worked a lot with our manufacturing processes and machines.
So you brought up that vertical integration and in sterile processing. Obviously, over the last couple of years, Franco, the question about supply chain and the integrity of the supply chain has come up very often in, hey, can we just get these supplies in? So we have agreed on a vendor. We want to get those supplies in. And because of the supply chain challenges across the globe, it's been very, very challenging. So how does that impact that vertical integration, the quality control of the process of just getting that product to the customer? How does that impact that resiliency in your supply chain?
Sure, that's a good question that came up a lot during COVID, during the pandemic, and actually, and let me tell you that besides the 34 items or products that we have FDA cleared, we have 250 more products, because we do not only supply the medical segment, but also dental, the industry, laboratory, pharma industry as well. So, I mean, it's always a challenge to manufacture more than 250 products. But as Max said, we are very well vertically integrated. So what we have, what we bought or what we buy, it's the raw material that it's actually very easy to get. So we have not experienced any back order thing from our raw material suppliers. Okay. And as we manage everything in-house, okay, we are very we are able to plan in advance, our manufacturing processes. Okay. Let me tell you that we have a very, very good production capacity for biological indicators, for voidics, for integrators, for chemical indicators. So far we have been very efficient on supplying our customers.
So one of the unique things about a company that's first coming to a particular market, as you mentioned, the company's been around for 16 years. You're not new to the space in that regard, but you're new to many of the audience here in the U.S. But that's kind of exciting. If you look at this adoption curve of, who's out there at the leading edge of that bell curve as those early adopters. I want to throw this question to you, Mark. As you would look out and describe the perfect customer that would partner with Terragene to be a part of that early adoption, to say, we've now heard the story of Terragene. We're interested in this lineup and the vision and philosophy of quality control that you've been mentioning. It's beyond just the product. It's the data. It's how this all works together. How would you describe and kind of outline that perfect customer, maybe for some folks that are tuning in thinking like, okay, I'm interested. I'm willing to be one of those disruptors in the industry. What would that look like to you?
So it's a great question. And the reason, when we look at customers, or when I think of customers, one thing is, people that want to challenge the process with good tools to do that. Terragene makes products that are very innovative. And like, for example, I was just talking with someone a little while ago, and we have a test that will verify your thermal disinfection level in your washer disinfector. Nobody does that. Nobody tests their thermal disinfection levels in the washer. We have a tool that does that. So we want that customer that's, educated, that knows what they're doing, that wants to challenge the process and test the process to make sure that they're doing the best they can for their patients. And we have all the tools. And Franco mentioned, we have all of these products, and many of them are FDA cleared. Some of them require that FDA clearance. Others do not. But for us, the customer that really wants to make their department shine and do better and give your technicians the tools that they need to get their job done successfully so that they're not set up to fail. Having the ability to take an indicator and scan it and upload it, it's something where, you go into a hospital, you don't have a tracking system. We already put you 5 steps ahead of everyone else because we have these products. And it's that innovation. It's people that are looking for products that are going to be challenging what we do and making sure that we're, doing the best for our patients. And we have that.
So, let's go back to the product announcement, right? So, if you're watching the video, if you're here live, you can see that device that Mark has in his hand here. And, the time obviously is it's a big boom, for the industry where to say, hey, 5 minutes, that's massive, but what are some of the other, implications of this technology and this device into the space? And, Franco, Mark, Max, who wants to kind of speak to that?
As far as, working a product like this into the space, you think about it, right? How many people here practice ELM or every load biological monitoring? And do you do it with steam and with low temperature? So a lot of facilities, when they say they practice ELM, it's usually, a lot of times it's just steam. When you have something like this, one of the things that can be problematic when you have a lengthier incubation time is completing your documentation. So you plant your biological, you might have to come back 20 minutes or whatever. And sometimes that falls in between shifts where, I plant it, I go home, somebody else has to pick it up. When you have a 5-minute read, you have the ability to plant it. You can walk over to your washer, grab a kit out of the washer. By the time you go back, that incubation's done. You can close that record and move on. So when I say we create products that make our lives easier, just think about it. Being able to release something quickly from low temperature is great. And also think of this. If you have a device and you're waiting for that biological read and somebody says, I must have this now, what do? You have to create a form, or you have to have the doctor sign off on it. With the 5-minute read, you don't have to go through that aggravation. So we're making your life easier.
I would also say that this product inherited the same vision that we have for the whole portfolio, and it is to turn a result into information. So these results will go directly to our cloud-based software in the same way that any other biological, any other chemical that we can read automatically with our scanner. So you will have all the information into the same layer. Actually, we are working in the new version of that, in which you can combine the chemicals and the biological controls into the same data set related to a specific load and related to a specific package inside that node. So if you need to look back in the future for knowing what happened, you will have the whole picture easy to look for. On top of that, you as a manager, you need to have that information to look for statistics, how this equipment is moving on, it is, I mean, the KPIs are improving or not. I mean, it is stable. What is happening with the staff? I mean, is this equipment has the same results, the same behavior with the morning staff compared to the late staff? Well, that is a kind of vision that we have not only for this product, for the whole set that we can provide. So it doesn't matter where you enter to our portfolio, you will enter the same level of layer of information.
That's a perfect segue actually to my next question here for Franco, is that quality control is an entire program. So like Max said, wherever you come in, whatever you're monitoring, you're going to get into this whole system. That's a really new concept in the space. I think historically, all of these indicators have been separate. They've definitely not been tied to any data that can be scanned into any software. So could you just explain a little bit to know throughout the panel discussion so far, we've kind of been alluding to it here and there, but what's involved in that program of quality control that we've been talking about? And why should quality be connected? Like, why is what you're saying so important to what we're trying to do in sterile processing?
Yeah, right. I mean, you actually got the definition. I mean, information and data is the most important here in order to have complete control of the SPD. Actually, the software gives you the ability to manage chemical indicators, protein swabs, biological indicators, washing indicators, and actually it gives the manager the ability to monitoring that from outside the site. Okay, you can enter from your house when you're home, and you can real life monitoring what is happening at the SPD. So this is one of the main reasons we are investing more and more and improving our software. Okay, the software that you may see today, it's maybe the 15th version of the software. We always try to learn from users what we need to improve, what has been done not really good in the past. So we are offering this solution that makes a difference from our point of view.
Let me add, Franco, that we are trying to fill a blank. I mean, all the tracking systems are really so comprehensive, but they're really not addressing the quality control. And we are trying to not just to keep record of things, just to give you the tool to have a preventive view of what is going to happen. I mean, if you keep records and you try to gather information of that and to keep statistics from that, you will see where you are heading to, not just if that load was cleared or not. And that's why we think it is important to grab all the data together for making it feasible to make a statistics to see the future, where you are heading to.
Hey, yeah, you're right. That's a completely new concept in this space, to have the data not only pulled together, but as you said, in the software. And I'm assuming there's dashboards that can help to visualize that data.
Right. So, as far as we talk about technology, and they were mentioning software. So when we have products like, if you look at some of the incubators that we have on the back table, this one, our Hyper 5, is specifically for low temperature, but we also have, and this is what caught my eye, is our incubators. We have the ability to incubate steam, hydrogen peroxide, ethylene oxide, all in one incubator. With the addition, if you're implementing a quality assurance program where you're testing for protein on instruments, we make protein swabs. Those can incubate inside the incubator. It will give you a ticket, so you can either keep a paper result or it will be uploaded into our cloud-based software, which is free. And the cool thing is, like, say we do a software update with this, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. You plug it in, you go on the Terragene website, you hit a link, and it uploads. It's that quick. So, when you look at technology and how this company has evolved, it's made it so much easier for the user.
And another layer, sorry about that, but another layer, important layer is that let's see the commodities that you may have. For example, the voidic, the most basic voidic. On top of that, you can use a more clever solution. So what we did was to have a scanner that can read that image, not only to keep record of that forever, you will see that image, but also for having an automated interpretation of that. And the eye of the machine is much better than our eye. So, of course, you can always have the technician put in her own interpretation, of course, but you will still have forever the image and the automated result. And that's another help to the SPD management, because you need less, you can be more sure that you have an homogeneous behavior of how to read a specific chemical indicator in this case. And that feature, it is feasible. It is done for every single chemical indicator that we have. You can read everything in that way, in that automated way also.
That impacts training, impacts variability and errors, as you mentioned as well. So yeah, that's massive. So, I want to talk about implementation, and, we talk about biologicals in particular, but obviously there's implications to your full scope of products out there. But, let me throw this over to Mark. When facilities trial or change their VIs, what are some best practices to be aware of, to do that well? Obviously, like, new companies sometimes when we're bringing them into our facilities, supply chain may have questions. Other folks may have questions. What do folks need to be aware of in that early adoption curve to be successful in the trial, and then if they choose to implement, be successful in implementation as well?
So as far as it goes with trials, I've been in the field for, close to 30 years now, and I've tried multiple products. And at one point in time, I was trialing a new biological. And, one thing that I recommend to staff when you're doing this type of a trial is use your existing product and then take the new product, run them side by side. This way, you're making sure that your processes work. It's kind of like when you're doing testing of your instrument sets. You can go in and put your BIs and CIs in there if you're doing product testing. A lot of people don't do that, but it's almost similar when you're trying to roll out a product like this. One key thing, and this is something that, for me with Terragene is unique. Every time we rolled out a new product, I always bring it to the operating room and I say, all right, hey, we're switching to this indicator. It's going to be coming in next week. They're going to say, what's it look like? What's the color change going to be? Is it the same? Because that's a problem. If you go from yellow to red with an indicator, like the most common one on the market, I'm not going to say a name, but it's been around forever. It's yellow and then it's red and turns yellow, right? Ours is exactly the same. It's basically, if you look at it, you couldn't tell the difference, except ours has a 2D barcode on it, which now you can upload and scan. So, when it comes to products like that, it's an easy merge into the department because there's not a lot of guessing, but, wall charts, posters, education, that's all stuff that we can provide.
Hey, what about the training on the software piece, just in terms of like user ability? Is that something that, mainly it's just an upload and then it's the department leader that has to look at that data? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So, if you can work a mouse, you can work the software. It's that easy. I went from a place where we had no tracking at all to going to a tracking system. And I had some staff that have been there forever. And now they had to use a computer, and to try to teach someone to use a mouse is tough when they've never used one before. But with this, it's so simple. The software, once you go in, we have a page where you put in your email, you get a link, you then access the site, and basically you build your department. So for example, I modeled my test area after my old hospital. I put in 5 washers, I put in 5 sterilizers, I put in high-level disinfection units, and you can build it yourself. So, hey, if you take a washer offline, you can take it out of the system so it's not there. So super easy to build. I build web pages too. So, when you look at this, it's very simple, very simple.
So let's speak to the elephant in the room, and this was kind of alluded to earlier. Does a company you do not manufacture equipment, which allows you to really specialize into what you're doing. But at the same time, you do not manufacture equipment. And so it's very common in the industry, if you're using a piece of capital equipment, to decide to use monitoring that is consistent with that equipment. How do you speak to that question and that assumption in the industry? Like, where would you kind of start?
I can do that. To develop a product for us is at least 5-6 years. And what is important to think about is that when you have to build a quality control for any single process you have out there, any brand, any model, any cycle inside that model, you need, that is more challenging. More testings to be done, more, the cycle of trial and error, redesign is more challenging. more often, more frequent. So you have, in the end, you have a more secure product. You have a product that can be really a standard because can be used in several cycles, in several brands, in several markets in the world. And that's why we really think that the indicators made by providers, we are not the only one, that doesn't build machinery, autoclave, for example, they are better because it is more difficult to build. If you are making, coming up with an indicator for just your own machinery is so easy because the parameters are really known. They are not changing and the scope is so small. So, maybe you can have it in a shorter time, but you are not sure that it is really a standard control because it was just made to fit with you. And the same, I could say the same for the washing machines, is quite the same. You need to have a really standard control. And that is our claim.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the answers to the test and then you write the test and you pass the test.
And
my words, not yours.
It is really important to know that the FDA, and really appreciate the FDA to make you clear a hydrogen peroxide, for example, hydrogen peroxide biological indicator, request you to have testing made by third parties for each single cycle that you are claiming your product is compatible with. So the testing is really extensive and you cannot do it by yourself. You need to ask hospitals to make it for you and they sign for that results.
So I really appreciate that answer. And obviously that's one of those, practical questions aside from if we decide to use this, how do we implement it? Which Mark, you gave a fantastic answer. But also, how do we, if we do decide we want to be that disruptor and we want to be that early adopter, we're going to have to go back out of this podcast and out of this event to talk to people who weren't here, who didn't have the opportunity to be here. Thankfully, they get to listen to the podcast too. And then, think through these kinds of things because it's a new concept, for many folks who in the past have just been consistent equipment and consumable users. So that's a great insight there that the challenge actually has to be, if you're building it for any equipment in any cycle, you're actually doing even more research and testing. So, as we kind of move to, wrap here, we're going to do Q&A after the podcast ends, but I do want to give some opportunity, to tell folks a little bit more if their interest is piqued in this podcast. Where can they find out more about what's going on at Terragene, and in particular here in the U.S.? How do they start this next step? Let's say they're convinced and they're like, "Hey, I'm in it to win it. I want to know more." Where do they go, Mark?
I would recommend highly go on the Terragene website. being a customer for years and, working in hospitals, a lot of websites that you go to look for product can be a nightmare because they're just laid out horrible. Our website is super clean, crisp, easy to use. You will not have problems finding a product. And if you get a chance, look at all the other products that we have, because we have things that are not available to anyone else, and they're a test that we can actually use. So I would highly recommend the website. It's a great place to start.
I also say that we have a generic way to contact with us. This is info@terragene.com. And the first step for us is education. I mean, you will be in contact with us, and we will have our product specialists to show the science behind the products, to make you more confident about what we are selling, what we are providing to you. And we will spend a lot of time teaching you about the product as much as necessary. That would be our first step. And well, we will be around this day, so you can be with us for moving forward with the conversation.
You can also follow our LinkedIn and Instagram pages, where we usually post innovation, new products, and try to educate as well from those social media platforms as well.
And there's pretty cool videos.
Yeah, of course. On our YouTube channel as well, there's instructional videos.
Maybe one image, one video can tell you much more than so many words. So yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for a fantastic conversation today. Great introduction to a company that's out there, truly innovating. And we love talking to innovators here at Beyond Clean. So thank you for your time today and your insight. And, we're going to move here after we wrap, to Q&A. But, for those who are listening to the podcast, that is going to do it for this vendor spotlight interview. As a reminder, you can help support Beyond Clean by subscribing to us on Apple, Amazon, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify, or on your favorite podcast application. You can download us on Apple and Android devices, the Beyond Clean app. We would certainly appreciate a rating and a 5-star review, because your feedback is important to the show. If you have any topics that you would like us to cover on a future episode, send us an email to info@beyondclean.net. On behalf of the team here and the Terragene team, thank you for listening to this Vendor Spotlight episode at Beyond Clean, and keep fighting dirty.